Don't pay any attention to what's happening on the screen. Our next presenter is Kin Lane. Kin has been working with databases since the late 1980s with the with the last 5 years exclusively focused on the technology, business, and politics of application programming interfaces. If you've heard of APIs, that's what we're talking about here. Kin works to educate technologists as well as the normals, those are his words, about the importance of data portability, interoperability, security, and privacy across the web and across mobile application platforms. And these are all things that we depend on in our personal and business lives. Kin does this via his blog, apievangelist.com, and is currently evangelizing APIs in Washington, D.C. as a Presidential Innovation Fellow, or at least he would if the government could get its stuff together. And he's going to talk to us about accessibility, interoperability, privacy, and security of technology, and how it will set the stage for the future of education. Let's welcome Kin Lane.
Is this working? Yeah, sounds like. All right, try not to make it squeal too much. So I'm Kin Lane. I'm the API evangelist, and that's in a technical sense, not in a religious sense. And my role is to educate the masses about APIs. So I'm going to talk about something very technical, but it's something that I believe that everyone has the capacity to understand, and it impacts everyone's life. You may not realize it right now, but API is pretty much part of everything that you do every day. And I'm a firm believer that APIs aren't just for developers and for applications. So what is an API? It's an application programming interface. It's how computers talk to each other. It's how applications and programs talk to each other. But there's kind of a new breed of them that have emerged recently with the internet. And they're kind of, even though they're still meant for computers, they're very readable by humans. And so I'm going to walk you through, every aspect of your world right now that APIs are driving. APIs are part of every major movement on the internet that you're experiencing right now. So commerce, Salesforce, they were the first API company. They launched an API. They brought web APIs to us. Amazon, everything about Amazon is driven via APIs. eBay, all the auctions, all the auctioneers, everything flows through APIs. PayPal, payments. They're one of the first new generation of payment companies allowing commerce to flow through APIs. Social was this whole new breed of APIs, rethinking APIs even from the commerce age. So every social bookmarking you do, every tweet, every time you go to Facebook, every picture you upload to Flickr, it's all APIs, all API driven. All the social pioneers rethought APIs and how they work. Everything cloud. The whole concept of cloud computing was brought to the table by Amazon. And from the commerce period, rethinking how they operated as a business, as an institution internally, and the Amazon cloud was born. Everything that the web runs on now is born out of Amazon's vision of what an API is and how they thought differently about how to operate using application programming interfaces, but at a human level, how they interacted as a company. Data is flowing through APIs right now. Everything you're reading from The Guardian right now, they're the biggest data journalists. We're seeing New York City, San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, all of these cities transforming themselves by opening up data via APIs. Data.gov, one of the projects I'm working on for the White House, opening up data at the federal level for use in applications, web and mobile, all across business, the private sector, the public sector, in between agencies. We're seeing the World Bank open up data and change how the global economy works using data via APIs. We're even seeing NASA use APIs to interact with different programs in space across the globe. Doesn't get much bigger than that. Try and get to work. There it goes. And then, of course, education. We're seeing APIs find its way into education, healthcare, pretty much any industry you can imagine. You're seeing it at the LMS level, libraries, museums. You're seeing textbooks. Pearson has adopted, good or bad, the whole API world and flowing all of their content. They're reinventing themselves by parting out their classic legacy catalog of books via APIs. So now you have a travel guide from 20 years ago that maybe stopped selling copies. They're breaking it up and making it available through APIs. And people are building iPad apps, games on top using that content. So it may not be a travel guide anymore. It's reborn as a Sherlock Holmes children's iPad game. Same content, just reborn through APIs. Department of Ed, we're seeing UC Berkeley. I'm working with UC Berkeley to reinvent every aspect of how they operate as an institution using APIs. From admissions to how classes are taught, how they build applications, how their students build applications for them, and then they buy them from their students. It's a whole new way, all API driven. So when you start realizing that everything we do around us right now is API driven, everything on your iPhone, on your Android device, on your BlackBerry, all of those icons are made available through APIs. That's what made the whole mobile revolution possible. We can do banking, I listen to my NPR every day, Twitter, Dropbox, everything you see here on the homepage is via APIs. Even the telephone calls are going through APIs now. APIs provide interoperability between applications and systems, institutions, companies, federal agencies. They provide automation between these applications and systems. And all this is still pretty boring technical stuff, this kind of interoperability and automation. But one thing that it does is it provides reciprocity between institutions and people, meaning when you allow the data from Facebook to flow through APIs to your mobile phone, to other systems, you have some control over that. As an institution, if you open up your content via APIs, you have control over how it's used, who uses it, who has access. It's not just open public APIs. So there's reciprocity built into the way this works. It allows new types of visibility into systems, IT systems that for 30, 40 years have been pretty black box. And so APIs are opening up some of these systems and allowing new ways of thought, new ways of innovation around these assets and resources, and opening up so that people can see how it works. It's not the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain anymore. I mean, that's classic IT. So APIs are opening up these systems and allowing people to look in. It's allowing a certain amount of transparency. These companies and institutions and government are wanting to use APIs so that they can have mobile applications and have all these new way of doing things. And to do so, they have to open up a little bit. Transparency can be good, it can be bad, but it's opening up institutions in new ways we never imagined. APIs are also about security. That's the biggest misconception with APIs, is that it's all open Twitter or open APIs. But it allows for new types of security to come into play. If you're familiar with OAuth at all, if you use Facebook and you allow other applications to log in with Facebook or log in with Twitter, that's OAuth. You're allowing them to have access to your Facebook or your Twitter. That's security, that's application security, saying this application can use my Facebook, but you have control over that security. It's not just about computers talking to each other. You're the broker of that relationship. So it's a new way of looking at security now that it's open APIs out in the public space. Privacy. There's also a lot of new ways to look at privacy with this. You theoretically should have control over who has access to your data, who can look at what. OAuth allows you to, at a granular level, say, well, you as an application can grab my wall post from Facebook. You can't look at my private info. You can't look at my private messages. You can set that level of granularity and privacy between systems. So it's not just computers. It's you, the person, actually being able to talk about how privacy works and what's most important to you. So this gives you a lot of power. as an individual. You can take a lot of control via APIs over your existence online. And this gives you a lot of power to grow and evolve and do things. You can do things like every time there's a blog post on your favorite blog or your blog, maybe your blog's on an institutional site. Maybe you just are a guest poster. But every time something posts there, you can send it to your Evernote. You can use programs like If This Then That, Zapier. They all use APIs, and they allow you to take control over your world, wherever that content may lie. Even though you don't have control over that blog, and that blog could go away at any point, I've had lots of blogs go away that I used to blog on. It'd be really nice if I could say every time a blog post shows up, puts in my Evernote. It's now in my portfolio. That's a lot of control. Every time you take an Instagram photo, you can put it into your Dropbox. All done with APIs. Same with YouTube. Every time a video gets posted by someone that has you in it tagged a certain way, you can have it go straight to your WordPress blog. All via APIs, all automated. It's this kind of interoperability. And then once you realize that APIs are everywhere, and every platform has this, and there's applications like If This Then That that'll allow you to orchestrate between all of those platforms. It gives you a lot of control over your world and your domain in a very secure and private way that you define and you have control over. When you start looking at the online world in this way, and you look at YouTube, and you look at WordPress, and you look at Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, all these mediums, and you have control over to orchestrate what you create, how you create it, and where this moves, it can make everything about learning. It can make, taking photographs at a wedding or your child's play into, now you can build portfolios from those images. You can have them go straight to your blog and tell the story around it. You can turn anything into a project that goes right straight into your professional portfolio that you have control over. But it makes everything that you do something that you can learn about and enjoy. And then if you do something, take it to the next step, and you get your own domain where you have online your own .com, and you understand you have all of this power to move information and content and data around in everything that you do in real time throughout the day, and it all funnels under your domain. It's pretty powerful stuff. You now are empowered to own everything that you do on the internet, no matter what Silicon Valley's doing, how much they monetize your world, how much they're going to use your face and likeness to sell ads and do what they do. You have the upper hand to flow all this content into your domain. Put wherever you want it. If you want it on Amazon, if you want it on Google, if you want it on your home machine, you have that control. And you can point your .com to that. You are the keeper of all of that knowledge. It's pretty powerful. It's an important concept when it comes to web literacy. This is not just a social thing or a cloud thing. It's a government thing. We're working across the government to give you access to your health records, no matter where it exists, your electrical records, no matter what power company you pay your bill to, gas companies, utilities, any of that. You have access to all of that data, and APIs and OAuth are giving you access and control over that. So you can get access to anything that the government does. This is like how our society is going to be operating. So web literacy is super critical. When you start thinking about this is how you're going to get grants. This is how you get loans. This is how you're going to, when you go to refinance your house and you need to pull history from and give it to your lenders. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to do it through APIs. And what better way to teach people how to do it than using Instagram and Facebook and lesser ways? But this is all about web literacy and understanding the building blocks of the internet. This is why APIs have been a fundamental piece of everything that's happened in the last 15 years, from commerce to the mobile movement. And this is the building blocks of web literacy. This is how the world's going to work. And APIs are not just for applications or for developers. It's for all of us. That's it.
Once again, we have roving microphones for those with questions.
Okay, sounds great and exciting. So how do we actually become literate?
Well, I think for me, APIs, how you learn about APIs got to be through projects. How you get exposed to how all this works has to be, it's project-based learning. This is very technical stuff sometimes, and us technologists love to make it even more complicated. We're really, really good at that. So how you learn about this, how this becomes reality in your world, it depends on what you do. If it's photography, Facebook, Flickr, Instagram, these are going to be your doorways to making it happen. But it's up to you. This is why it's so important for me to educate the normals and the masses about APIs, is because it takes pressure from you guys on platforms to make it happen from that perspective. So your doorway in is one way. Platforms, it's another way. How do you get LMS and Blackboard, all these companies to start opening up data? You have to apply pressure. You have to ask for it. When you use software, you have to make sure it has data portability. That's why Facebook has an export all button now, is because people asked for it, but people had to know about it first. That's why Twitter has data portability. People asked for it. So this is a long road. I've been doing this for 3 years. It's very hard to get people understanding it because it's something that's very technical and it's something that people love to just kind of tune out. But like I said, it's part of everything you're doing every day, and it's something that you have control over. So finding those projects in those meaningful ways that are important to you, or to your students, or to your family members, whoever, that's the way this is all going to work and be figured out. So, any other questions?
I wonder if you could comment upon APIs as compared with currency in our need to understand it, to use it. How much of finance do we need to understand in order to use money? And similarly with APIs, because an awful lot happens because we say, sure, authorize via Twitter. Do we really need to have a deep understanding moving forward?
Sure. So I would say, no, you don't need to go too deep. I mean, I'm not going to have you parsing JSON or XML or, working with SDKs and all of that geeky layer of stuff. But in your Facebook, in your Twitter, there's places you can go and see who you've let OAuth into your Facebook or Twitter account. You can go to a screen. There's no code necessary, no technology necessary. You just go into the interface and look, and there's a list of applications that you've let OAuth via Facebook's API into your Facebook. You should look at that every week, much like your bank account. You don't have to, understand the inner workings of a ACH transfer to understand which account, which ones you should allow or not, or be able to look at and go, well, I didn't make that, and same with your credit card. You don't have to understand how payment gateways work and all of that. But you should be able to know where to go to look at an interface and understand how it's working and understand some of the mechanisms, whether you should do a bank-to-bank transfer, auto pay, these ways that credit card companies and banks are going to charge you different fees, or is it cheaper to do bank-to-bank? How does it work? Same way with APIs. You should understand how this data works between these systems. And it's another pressure point I try to put on Silicon Valley startups is make this easy for people to understand. Let's educate people on how this works. And the White House right now is working on a OAuth 101 kind of program to help people understand it, because this is how you're going to get your energy data. This is how you're going to get your IRS data. IRS is launching a similar interface allowing you to get at your tax history right now. I think it's going to be out in January, where you can go in and look at your tax history and see if you owe them money, see if you don't, see if it went through. And then if people are wanting your tax data, you can OAuth just like you would in your Facebook and let people have access to your tax history. So understanding at that level is important, not at the technical.
Thank you. Again, I'm out on a limb here, but I can understand the functional teaching of how to use API in the everyday life and the ease of it and perhaps some of the parameters around it. Who is teaching the users how to use good judgment in using the power that they have, ethically or, whatever? Who's teaching the judgment aspect?
Yeah, sadly, not enough. This is what I've been doing. I identified this in 2010. This is why I started my blog, API Evangelist, is to educate people about it. Because back to the, how much do we need to know about this whole process in relationship to currency? You go to Silicon Valley startup and VC gatherings, and your data is the new oil. It's the new gold, and APIs are the pipes that's flowing through. Yeehaw, we're taking advantage of this. And so there's a lot of people out there taking advantage of everyone right now. And if there's not someone teaching startups and companies and developers in the younger generation the importance of the ethics in all of this, from setting up the pipes, and we're going to see meltdowns like 2008 in financial crisis, but at the technical level, privacy, all of our kids' data, private data being taken. We're already seeing glimpses of this, and so there needs to be a lot of education about everyone about what are you doing when you go through, the OAuth flow. You may not know what that is, but you've all done it, I guarantee, where you say yes, 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 yes. It's kind of like hitting the terms of use, terms of service. Yes, I agree to that. Didn't read that whole thing. But the OAuth flow, allowing people access to your Twitters, your Facebooks, your Instagram, it's just becoming second nature. And you're giving away your rights and ownership through that flow. But you have a lot of control. You can revoke that at any point, unlike terms of service. So we have a lot of education to do, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is working with Jim and the group on concepts around how do we educate people about what's already out there, how is it being implemented, and hopefully educating the masses so that they can apply pressure to the companies, and it becomes a cycle that eventually will kind of steer the ship back, course correct, to a more ethical stance, rather than everyone just being the creating this gold that Silicon Valley is getting rich off of.
So given what you've just said, what is your hunch about healthcare.gov? And I mean, we've got interoperability, we have privacy, we have security issues. What's not happening there?
Yeah. So since that wasn't directly my project, I'm allowed to talk about it while I'm furloughed here. So yes, what you're seeing with healthcare.gov is kind of the whole open washing and lipstick on a pig kind of thing. Is you're gonna see a lot of projects where they go, hey, we have open APIs, we have open data, we're using GitHub, we're doing all this, and they do that whole song and dance, and that's only partly true. That's just the Hollywood front, the facade. And healthcare.gov, from a front-end standpoint, the website's beautifully done. It does use GitHub. It does use APIs. There's some very, very forward-thinking, forward-leaning stuff on how you get information about state marketplaces, how that flows. They have some great APIs that have the glossary of terms and FAQs and all the information about the plans and everything. Problem is, as soon as you go to sign up or log in, it hits a service that is the classic dinosaur in government, built by contractors. There's a list of contractors you can find online. My blog's one of them. I'm ranting pretty much weekly about this, or daily. And they just took a lot of money to build the same old systems. And so really we have, it comes back to the transparency and visibility. Is there's no transparency or visibility into the legacy procurement process around government. Is basically the same old good old boys got together on the back end and said, let's take the biggest chunk of money, let's carve off a little piece and pay the innovators on the front to build this front on the front end. So really, as educators and administrators and decision makers, you have to learn how to ask the hard questions about, don't just let us, people come tell you it's using APIs and GitHub and open, and believe us, because it's got to be all of that through and through the whole process. There has to be transparency in the whole process. Otherwise, you'll have the same systemic illnesses on the back end that you've had always, and the same money problems. And so I'm dealing with this at the VA. I'm dealing with at several other agencies as well. They have a lot of problems with transparency, actually opening up the kimono to see what's going on.
And this is probably our last question.
I kind of live in this space of APIs, and my question is, have you seen universities opening up their own APIs? Because that's something that interests me tremendously, is being able to say, this is our space on the web. I mean, we've seen MOOCs as a way of opening up our courses within applications, but I'm interested if you've seen any work in the higher education space.
Yeah, the only three that I showcase that are doing things are UC Berkeley, UW, Washington, and BYU are the three that have. There's others that have their own APIs, and you can find them on my blog. There's a handful of others, but those are the three that I would say are making a conscious effort. I would say Washington being definitely the most forward-thinking, Berkeley being number two. And how do we do this across the organization? How do we transform how we operate as an institution? Similar to what Amazon did to themselves to go from commerce to the cloud, is how do we interact between departments, between groups, using APIs? How do we empower students to not just deploy APIs around data, but use them and build their own courseware, build their own systems, and then adopt those internally? So it's a huge cultural shift, and it's something I'd love to put more case studies together around those three institutions and share, because I think other institutions just need the case studies to see and to emulate. But I'd like to see more of it, because I need to get the numbers behind what they're doing, and cost savings, efficiencies, agility, all the things that APIs enable institutionally. But it's just beginning in higher ed. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Ken,
you.
that concludes our Q&A.